The forgotten dance. Lena stood at the edge of the grand hall, her fingers fidgeting with the hem of the dress her mother had insisted she wear. It was a vibrant floral gown, something she would have adored as a child, but now it clung to her awkwardly, as though it belonged to someone else. She had never felt more out of place. She had always hated weddings. The forced smiles, the polite conversations, the endless small talk. Her mother used to drag her to these events, hoping she would learn to enjoy them, to fit in. But every time Lena would retreat into herself, watching the celebrations from a distance, a mere spectator in someone else's story. Today was no different except for one thing. She couldn't escape the nagging feeling that she was missing something. The bride's family had gone on and on about how breathtaking the ceremony was. Stunning, they'd said. Completely unique. And yes, Lena supposed it had been lovely in its own way, but as she watched the couple sway on the dance floor, she couldn't shake the feeling of disconnection, of emptiness. It gnawed at her, making her already frayed nerves even worse. She felt out of place. The only college freshman in a sea of middle-aged couples, bored elders, and young musicians who seemed too engrossed in their art to notice her existence. Even in this vibrant dress, she felt like a ghost. Lena had always seen people differently, more like abstract shapes and colors than actual beings. Her mother was a blur of muted reds, her teachers a dull gray. Strangers were fast-moving shadows, insignificant in their fleeting presence. She had perfected the art of blending into the background, becoming invisible in plain sight. But tonight everything was louder, sharper. The noise of conversation seemed to echo in her head, and the people around her were no longer just shadows. They were harsh, glaring shapes pressing in on her. She felt like she was drowning in their words, their laughter, their lives. She needed air. Stepping out into the cool night, Lena took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm of emotions swirling inside her. She hated being noticed, hated the idea of being the center of attention. Weddings, to her, felt like cruel exhibitions where people were paraded around as symbols of happiness. But tonight something was different. The feeling that she was missing something crucial, had only grown stronger. And then she saw her. At first Lena thought she was imagining things. The woman stood at the edge of the garden, her figure bathed in the soft glow of lanterns. She was statuesque, her posture elegant yet relaxed, as if she belonged to a world far more graceful than this one. Lena blinked, her breath catching in her throat. She had seen beautiful people before, but this woman was something else entirely. She didn't seem real. The woman's dress shimmered under the light, a deep emerald green that complemented her dark hair. Her face was turned away, and yet Lena felt drawn to her, as if the air between them crackled with an invisible energy. The world around them seemed to fade, the noise of the wedding a distant hum. All Lena could focus on was this woman, and the inexplicable pull she felt toward her. Without thinking, Lena stepped forward, her heart racing. She had never felt like this before, this desperate need to be seen, to be acknowledged. It was terrifying but also exhilarating. For once, she didn't want to disappear into the background. She wanted to matter. The woman turned slightly, her profile illuminated in the soft light, and Lena's breath hitched again. There was something achingly familiar about her, something that tugged at the deepest parts of Lena's soul. She was close enough now to see the delicate lines of the woman's face, the curve of her lips, the way her eyes sparkled with an inner light. But Lena froze, her feet rooted to the ground as if she were made of stone. She wanted to speak, to move, to do anything, but she couldn't. Her heart pounded in her chest, her throat dry and tight. She had never been good with words, never known how to express what was inside her. And now in this moment it felt more impossible than ever. But the woman noticed her. Their eyes met, and Lena felt a jolt of electricity shoot through her. The woman's gaze was soft, but there was something in it that made Lena's heart race even faster. It was as if she saw right through Lena, past all her awkwardness and insecurity, straight into her soul. For a moment, neither of them moved. The world stood still, and all that existed was the space between them, charged with 1,000 unspoken words. Finally, the woman smiled. A small, serene smile that made Lena's heart ache. It was the kind of smile that held secrets, that promised understanding without the need for words. It was a smile that made Lena feel, for the first time in her life, that she wasn't invisible. The woman stepped toward her, closing the distance between them. Lena's breath caught in her throat again, her pulse racing. She didn't know what to say, what to do. She had spent so much of her life avoiding connection, hiding from the world, and now, faced with this woman, she didn't know how to be anything other than a shadow. But the woman's hand reached out, gentle and warm, and lightly touched Lena's arm. The touch was light as a feather, but it grounded Lena, pulling her out of her own head and into the present moment. She looked up into the woman's eyes and saw something there. Something tender, something understanding. "You look like you needed saving," the woman said softly, her voice like music. Lena laughed, the sound surprising even herself. "I think I did." The woman's smile widened, and she tilted her head slightly. "I'm Amelia." "Lena," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. They stood there in the middle of the garden, the night air cool and fragrant around them. The world seemed to shrink down to just the two of them, the distant sounds of the wedding fading into the background. Lena felt something shift inside her, a warmth spreading through her chest, a sense of belonging she had never known before. She wasn't sure what this was or what it meant, but for the first time in a long time she didn't feel like a ghost. She felt alive. And for now that was enough.